So when we're in those lower levels and we're feeling like victims, or our ego's activated and we want to control something because we don't feel like we have control, we get to that midway point. That's where we let everything go. You'll hear that a lot, spiritual teachers like talking about like meditation, get into the void, because you want your mind to go empty during that point. That's always the point of meditation, is to stop the incessant thinking. So there's no thought that's happening there. There's nothing that's happening on that midway point. And that's the purpose. We have to get there, consolidate, settle before we go on to the higher levels and start to really understand what some of those higher levels even mean. Because we have to be empty. We have to be empty of those lower levels before we can see that or get to those higher levels. Can anything add to who we are or take away from who we are? I mean, we're talking environment, is it who we are? Like if you took me out of this environment, put me in an environment in the United States, put me in the environment in France, does that add to or diminish from me? Same thing. If we took you all out of your environments, does it change you? Does it add to you? Does it take away from you? That core of who we all are. Can we call that the soul? So what is the essence of that soul? And then now, what in these environments adds to that or takes away from it? Welcome to the midway point. There's nothing there for us to know, to figure out, to understand. There's nothing. We couldn't answer it. We don't know. So we look around these environments and we're identified with them because of a story that we're telling ourselves because of a role that we've been in. And our minds create it. And when our minds aren't available or free to create something else, or to be able to see something else, or to get that divine download, then we just start, we get comfortable. We keep those pieces in place of like, well, I don't want to leave. I'll just leave this the way it is. Nothing wrong with that. But what we're getting into, and again, there's a lot to be said about, the safety and security. We want to be anchored. The most scary thing ever would be to be, homeless or, to that degree. But let's say now, because you're living in such a state of fear, but people also choose to be nomads or not have anything tethering them and not have anything, and they're fine. So it's a matter of a state of mind. So that's what we're embracing right now, is that state of mind. Is like when we get into the nothingness, when we get into that void, what does it mean? Now, what do we create from here? What do we do with it? What is the purpose, our purpose of it? And so this is that midway point, the consolidation. We're all doing it. We're consolidating our lives right now at this age. When I had to give up everything in the United States, that taking away and it felt like a lot was being taken from me, because it was my adult life of stuff. A lot of it had a lot of very big memories, but of course, what gave it those memories? Well, I did. I assigned those good or bad memories to that stuff. So we've assigned all the value to everything around us. We've assigned the value to it because it's really valueless, right? I mean, does it really have, and I can tell you, when you have to sell everything in your house, it is not worth anything. It's worth nothing. So you really get that feeling of just like, wow, I've been accumulating a whole lot of stuff my whole life. I've spent a lot of money on name brand things, and here it is worth $1.50. So it's worth nothing. So that's that midway point of just like, what is it all for? What does it mean if I let it go? And if I let go of all of those mental assignments, now what? And this is such a big ponderance. It's such a big question. But that's where the creation for the estrangement comes in as well. The new stories, the new versions, the new relationship. It has to come in this space of nothingness because we can't draw from the past. So we have to recreate something from here. So I wrote an article on surrender on Substack, if you have or haven't had a chance to read that yet. But I want to point some things out because this is where we want to be with so I don't know if I want my daughter back. We don't know what we want. We don't know what that relationship looks like. So we can't really force it. We can't really do anything to force it. We really just have to like be in this space of nothingness to allow for whatever is going to transpire. And on some parts of it, like, and when Sue said last week of like surrendering, and then you read that section on surrender and you said, well, the let go, let God is the closest thing to it. That's why I wanted to include that in the Substack. We're in this space where there's nothing. Okay, we're not a human, we're not a divine being yet. There's just nothingness. We're kind of just waiting for this soul's purpose to start to reveal itself. Like our soul's always being connected to a source. So we can always hear this divine source, but not when we're in the pain, not when we're in the stories, not when we're identifying with our environment around us and giving something value. It's in that void. So that's what we want to engage and practice being there. So surrender, let go, let God. Again, I'm not going to do anything. That's not it. Okay, so that's just saying it's yours to deal with. I don't have to do anything. At this midway section, we're saying, I don't know what anything is for. I don't know. Once we get up into the higher sections, it's extremely proactive. And the higher up we go, the more proactive it is. That means the more engaged we have to be, the more willing we have to be the conduits, because we have free will. We could easily say, no, I don't want anything. I don't want to know. I just want to watch TV and eat ice cream. And we can do that because we have free will. So right now we're kind of deciding maybe what we want, this next phase to look like, this last phase of our life to look like. If we know nothing around us adds to us or can subtract from us, then what do we do with this? Now, once we get into level 3, that's when we become more conduits. Once we start to hear the voice, and you will never hear me say that I am there and it's integrated, because I will not be, because I know as soon as I say that or think that I've arrived at some high level, pride always begets a fall and you're back down at the bottom. I have learned that enough times in my life that I will never, ever, ever claim to be in those higher levels or claim to be enlightened. So do as I say, don't do as I say, don't do as I do. That's always going to be my motto. But I do have the flashes and I do know to follow them. I know to follow certain cues. Okay, and in this midway section, that's what we're learning. We're learning to listen for the cues because we don't know what anything is for. So now in this article, what I mentioned was things that I said to my daughter when she was not talking to me. She was very angry with me. There was nothing but silence. But when I had the opportunity to email her, and I wasn't bombarding her or trying to get her attention or trying to do anything, it's just if I had an opportunity to email her, those were the things that I was saying to her, So it was, I'm proud of you. You're truly doing everything right. And these were emails that I took that I wanted to include. And growing up, I always told my kids, and I'm an Aquarius, and an Aquarius motto is always question authority. And that's always been like a motto in the back of my head, always question authority. And I've said that to all my kids constantly. And so I said that again in an email, always a question authority, especially if it's mine. And then find your own way, claim your own path, never apologize for it. I'll be here no matter what. So, and there's no response. There's nothing there. There's no validation. There's nothing saying that it's right or it's being received. I didn't even know if she was receiving this. I didn't know if she had the same email address. I didn't know. But I wasn't doing it for a response. It was part of me that's like, can I do this? Who am I? What is a loving mother? What is a supportive mother? I almost had to like re-identify with that or become that. And then again, like I mentioned, not connecting to her on a wounded child level, but a soul to soul level. So from here on up, that's what we're doing. We're making a soul connection, not a human connection. Because if we're making a human connection, level 1, I'm a victim, you owe me. Level 2, I want to control this, you owe me, let's do it this way. None of that exists. So we really kind of just got to get settled right now. And then because we're going to start becoming a conduit and practicing more of like, what does this mean? What is that higher voice asking for me? What is my soul's purpose? The answer is always to just be love. So what does love always look like when it's not being validated? Because now that's not love, because that's not authentic. That's something that we do for validation. Trust, before we can even get into level 3, that is it. And we're going to talk a lot about trust next time, because it involves that leap of faith. But yeah, what you just said right there, yeah, that precious time of being a mom to young kids, even though there were just times it was so hard. But yeah, those are just some of the greatest memories. And to be able to give that to ourselves when we're needing it, when we're hurting, when we're wounded, is the exact thing that we need to do. And always recognize that we are spiritual beings, always having that human experience, and we're always going to have those human needs. That chart is one thing, one human experience. We don't want to move beyond level 1 or level 2. We want to integrate all of it, just to be able to say, wow, this was really one rich human journey. This was great. And, not carrying the burdens, but transcending and transforming the burdens so that we can start to see something very different. Yeah, absolutely. I find it interesting right now that, the stories of the world ending in flooding the first time, and now the second time it's supposed to be fire, right? But I find it, and of course, I think everything's always just a figment of our imagination. I don't necessarily think that it means, something real, because I believe that upon death, it's just a doorway into the next lifetime. So I don't really think, and this is just the world according to me, I don't really think that it's anything horrific or anything like that. Can be if you're in fear, but I don't think that it is. So the world's on fire right now. Fire is level 2. So everything's burning up. Energy's burning up. Everybody's heated. Everything's wielding their swords, like Tammy said. So we want to be at this place to where we're just kind of like letting it all go and just being observer, being the instigator. What is this all for? What's it about? And of course, once everything burns to a crisp and to ashes, what's left? Just those ashes, right? Well, now the midway section is air, breath, wind. So those ashes just blow away. They're nothing. So all of that stuff that we gave so much effort and energy to was nothing. And so that's just also, where we're consolidating and thinking about and sitting in this section. And that's a good point about bringing up children too, because this is also the section of being more childlike, that curiosity. As children, we didn't always get to be children because we lived in different times and life was very different. So now that's also part of this too, the curiosity, the wonder, the awe of little children. So now what do we do with that? How can we make it so magical? Like the meteor showers, I just thought was just such a neat magical gift, that we were all given. And, things like that, just the awe and wonders of the world that are still happening all around us. Yes, there's crazy stuff too, but there's also the magic that's happening as well. And that's what you want to start thinking about or looking into. So when something arises in your week that's crazy, just just sit there and surrender to it. See what happens. Just see what happens. And more times than not, if you can really like see the judgment of this is crazy, this is that, this is, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. Empty that judgment. And then it usually dissipates on its own. And so now that goes into the void of nothingness. That becomes nothing. It's our resistance, our judgment that pushes against the energy that makes it appear to be something that's not desirable. So we want to practice that this week. So look for those opportunities of just kind of throwing them into the void, meeting it with nothing. And playing with it too, because the universe is always communicating with us. Always, always. And as far as like God and the higher beings are concerned, it's all fun. It's all neat. It's all cool. It's all a good time. We all just take ourselves way too seriously. So we want to allow more of that energy of like, okay, yeah, this is a crazy life that I created for myself, that I'm identifying with, that I'm giving a story to, that I'm giving a drama story to. But if I let that go, then what can replace it? So it's an easy section, but it's a hard section, right? I mean, this is really kind of it's hard to get your head around nothing. It's hard to do nothing. This is what I've been doing. And so think about this, like every chance you get to incorporate this. So like I've been eating ice cream at every level, right? Because I told you I've got kind of a thing with ice cream right now. So when we eat ice cream in level 1, what are we doing? You sat down with the entire gallon, right? And you just ate a gallon of ice cream in a single serving. You feel awful. You want to drown in that ice cream. I deserve this. I'm the victim. I deserve this ice cream. I had a hard day. Level 2 is really now about controlling that ice cream. But there's so much guilt, right? So much guilt with, no, it's going to make me fat. It's going to make me this. It's going to make me that. I can't. I've got to watch my health. I've got to watch my sugar content. It's just all that. The control that we want to control our mind is like, well, just a little bit won't hurt me. And okay, if I'll just have one bite, you start bargaining with yourself. I'll just have one bite. And then you keep going back 300 times and, all of your spoons are dirty, and everything else. Then at that midway point, you just kind of sit there and just go, I don't know what to think about it. And so now when we start to get into the higher levels, level 3 is just like, the forgiveness of it. Like it doesn't mean anything. We're giving all of the value. And so now to eat ice cream so consciously is a very different experience than eating it in the lower levels. Level 4 is just making love to that ice cream. It's just the most amazing thing ever. The most amazing human experience you can ever have is to eat your favorite ice cream. Calories don't matter. Sugar doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. So practice doing that too. So it's interesting. You cannot rush these levels. And that makes sense. I mean, we can't go through life that quickly. And our nervous systems can't handle a change that quickly. We really have to keep processing any negative emotions that come up just to get into the experience a little bit more. But as long as this took, and I know it seems like it took forever, especially Sue was like, we got to get out of these lower levels. As long as it took, I think it's just an important part of recognizing that, we're human beings. We really are. And we are wired a certain way, and we approach life a certain way, and we can't move to it too quickly. Well, one, wouldn't even make sense to us if we did. So we're just integrating these experiences as we go through them. And that's the point. We want to experience all of it. All right. We'll see you next week. And let's dive into trust, that leap of faith. And then we'll decide if we feel like we're ready to kind of go into level 3. Let's see how that goes. But we'll see how we're feeling about faith and trust and leap of faith. And there's a lot of aspects to trust. And so we'll go into that next time. All right, you all, but thank you so much. And I really appreciate you being on this life journey with me.